Well, Ali Asghar Soltanieh is the former Iranian ambassador to the International Atomic Energy Agency, and he joins me now from Vienna. Thanks so much for being with us. First, I have to ask you, to what end is Iran now enriching uranium up to 20%? Iran always insisted that its nuclear program was only for peaceful purposes, but how is, that level of enrichment really necessary for the sole purpose of power generation?
I have first to remind you that according to Article 4 of NPT, this is inalienable right of all parties to NPT, including Iran, to do enrichment, and there is no restriction and level restriction and ceiling of the enrichment. Any country party to NPT could enrich as much as they need, and just inform the IAEA to verify. Second point, the Tehran research reactor fuel needs a 20% enrichment. That is why years ago, when we had negotiation in Vienna and also in Tehran, there were several discussions to produce 20% enriched for fuel. Since no suppliers provided to Iran, therefore Iran had no other option than to produce 20% enrichment for the fuel of Tehran reactor, which is producing radioisotopes for hospitals, and millions of patients are desperately in need of this medicine and radioisotope.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, your explanation is quite logical, but still a number of analysts have said that Iran is just playing this game of leverage, trying to up the ante as far as possible in order to make Iran a foreign policy priority and hopefully renegotiate something once Trump leaves office. Some are saying you're playing a very dangerous game. Do you think that factors in?
Well, in fact, this is exaggeration, bearing in mind that for 4 years of the Trump administration, which in fact called all the previous administration by Obama administration as disaster, including JCPOA, Iran has exercised maximum vigilance. But there is a fact that the patience has a limit. And this time, I want to give a very clear message. This time, it is not a bluff, and it is a proof that Iran meant it, and Iran has decided, and the parliament's law is implemented. The unanimous voice is from Iran. And I just want to recall, and perhaps this is a clear message to a new administration coming to the office, that there is a lesson in 2006. You have to be careful that lesson will not be repeated. Because when we had the negotiation with EU3, after 2.5 years suspension and additional protocol implementation voluntarily, they were not able to deliver their commitment. Therefore, we stopped it, and we started enrichment. This is the same moment that they have to take seriously and count on each word of Iran.
Okay. I mean, again, you sound, fair in all your logical explanations that this is obviously within what you interpret as your rights as a sovereign nation and under international law, but you know that the consequences aren't always applied with that same logic. You now have Israel putting out warnings that if it sees further enrichment, they will have to take whatever action they feel is necessary to defend Israel's safety. Does that concern Iran at all, that something is being pushed to the brink in a very dangerous region where we often hear the words the brink of war? Does that worry you at all, that even if you think you're doing things under international law, you are playing, again, a dangerous game?
Well, in fact, not. Bearing in mind that the Zionist regime has nuclear weapon capabilities, it is not party to NPT. There is no inspection of the IAEA whatsoever in that land. And unfortunately, now this sort of threat of attack is repeated. In fact, Israel is the potential threat and existential threat with the nuclear weapons to the countries in the region and the world international peace and security. Therefore, this is in fact what is the situation. But I have said it before years ago that nobody even can dare to think about attacking Iran because of the retaliation will be harsh. At the same time, since enrichment technology is indigenous, no attack could be, in fact, stop it. And Iran is not a small country, And for a small place, we can have hundreds and thousands of centrifuges. Therefore, this is a historical mistake. Any country thinking by attack, threat of attack, or maximum pressure could stop enrichment in Iran.
Okay.
This has been the last 20 years. Therefore, we advise them to prevent confrontation and use, in fact, peaceful negotiated solution for this matter. And in fact, in order to incorporate the legitimate expectation of Iran, maximum pressure, sanctions should stop, and we have to put everything in the right track.
Right. However, though, on the other side, your critics say that you are provoking your European allies, you're provoking the United States, you're provoking Israel, and now you're even provoking South Korea, a relationship you shouldn't have this level of tension with, but it has built over the months. And now Iran has detained a South Korean chemical tanker in the Gulf. Why does Iran feel it's in Iran's jurisdiction to do that?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to comment on it. And whatever I'm saying and I said today is my personal capacity as a retired diplomat. But I'm only expert on the nuclear and non-proliferation and disarmament issue. I want to, in fact, remind and highlight the fact that the EU has not, in fact, implemented what they were supposed to do it. Therefore, they have had non-compliance on their commitment under the JCPOA. They have no right to criticize. Iran has shown maximum vigilance and self-restraint for 4 years. And despite of the maximum pressure, sanctions, Iran was still committing within the framework of JCPOA. I want to remind that in JCPOA, this is my personal opinion, my country has made too much compromise, unfortunately, and it has not been appreciated neither by EU nor by US. And this is the time to understand this clear message that the business is not going to continue as usual. They have to cope themselves with the new reality and try to respect Iran's legitimate right and come to the right position and work together to find an amicable solution. And this is, I think, the end to that process. And I think this is the time that, according to the law passed by our parliament, this is in fact serious matter that EU and US new administration should take into serious consideration.
Okay, Ali Asghar, Soltanieh joining us there. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.